Hello, welcome to my channel WWE Pulse.
The WWE Draft. What is it? Well, it's basically an annual event where the rosters for Raw and SmackDown are shuffled. Each brand can then select talent from the other to come over and join them. Think of it like a trade deadline day or an NBA draft if you want. Superstars can be traded from one brand to the other, and it shakes up everything. It creates fresh matchups and new storyline possibilities. It's also a way to reset the landscape of WWE each year. In this video, I'm gonna go over everything you need to know about the WWE Draft, including when it's happening next, who can participate, and some examples of historic moments from drafts past. So, stick around. We've got a lot to cover. Before we talk about when the next draft will take place, let's first answer the question, how does the draft actually work? The draft takes place over 2 nights, one for each brand. During the draft, the rosters of both shows are completely revamped. Any superstar who was previously on one brand may now be on the other. The main objective of the draft is for each show to get better. If a brand feels they have too many heels, they may look to draft a baby. If they feel they don't have enough tag teams, they'll draft some. The draft is not a popularity contest by any means. We cares about having the right balance on their shows. Nothing else. The order in which teams pick can vary depending on which brand holds the know. One draft pick. This usually happens in the weeks leading up to the actual draft. For example, at the 2022 draft, SmackDown held the first overall pick. In 2023, it was reversed and Raw had the first selection. But either way, the concept is the same. One team selects first, then the other team selects second, and so on. Once all the selections are made, the draft is over and the rosters are set. Now, after the draft, there's always going to be some free agents floating around. They didn't get picked by either team, and they're kind of in limbo. Sometimes a brand will just call them up and bring them over. Other times a superstar will choose which brand they want to be with. And occasionally a superstar will be traded to a brand that they're not happy about. In these situations, a superstar will sometimes ask for a trade. And if one is agreed upon, then they can be sent to the brand they desire. Sometimes, though, there are certain talents that are drafted and they don't want to leave their original brand. So instead of forcing them to move, WWE will allow them to stay put, and instead, another superstar from the same brand will take their place. And finally, sometimes a superstar will refuse to be drafted, usually because they're unhappy with WWE creative. In those instances, they may ask for a trade, and if one isn't available, then they'll sit out until they're happy with a resolution. There is also a special rule called the wild card rule, where any superstar from either roster can compete on either show. This came into effect in 2020, and it allowed wrestlers to be more flexible and appear on both brands without officially being a part of either one. This rule has since been removed. So now you know how the draft works. Let's answer the question, when is the next draft taking place? Well, based on recent history, it's safe to assume that the 2024 draft will happen sometime in late April through early May. Usually, the draft happens during a live episode of either Raw or SmackDown. but it could also take place at WrestleMania weekend. Last year, the draft took place on April and May. In 2021, it was May. In 2022, it was May. And in 2020, it was October. All of the drafts except for 2022 were part of WrestleMania weekends. So if we were to speculate, the 2024 draft would most likely occur during WrestleMania weekend, which is scheduled for April. But speaking of history, let's move on and talk about some of the most memorable moments in WWE draft history. At the 2004 draft, the top pick for SmackDown was Brock Lesnar. This was significant because at the time, Lesnar and his advocate Paul Heyman were still in the midst of a highly publicized contract dispute. By selecting Lesnar first overall, SmackDown ensured they would keep him away from Raw for the foreseeable future. Lesnar would go on to have a huge run on SmackDown, winning the WWE Championship 3 times. The next year at the 2005 draft, John Cena was selected by SmackDown with the #1 pick. At this point, he was still a relative unknown compared to the other superstars that were drafted that night, such as Batista and Randy Orton. However, Cena would go on to become one of the biggest stars in company history. At the 2008 draft, CM Punk was selected by Raw with the first overall pick. He used this opportunity to cut one of the greatest promos in WWE history, where he basically ranted about how no matter how much effort he put into his work, he was never going to be a WWE champion. He felt that the company was creatively limiting him, and he was absolutely sick of it. His promo was so good that even if you knew the entire thing was scripted, you still rooted for him anyway. And at the 2016, the very first pick for SmackDown was none other than the legendary John Cena. This was significant because it showed that WWE was willing to invest in making SmackDown a viable competitor to Raw up until that point. SmackDown had often been seen as the secondary brand, but with the addition of Cena, it became clear that WWE was serious about making it a priority. And finally, in 2019, the second night of the draft ended with a huge swerve. Just when you thought all the picks were over, the newly crowned Universal Champion Seth Rollins came out and demanded that he be drafted to SmackDown so he could unify the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship against the likes of Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. In response, WWE coup Triple H announced that he was giving the final pick to Raw, meaning that Rollins would remain on the red brand. To make matters worse, it was revealed that his nemesis, Lacey Evans, had also been drafted to Raw, setting the stage for a confrontation between the two rivals. Those are just a few of the most memorable moments in WWE draft history. So who do you think will be the top picks in the 2024 draft? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. You've got a great day.
Okay guys, thank you for watching my videos.